to be really afraid of the leadership word and would just think it was something for those people. And I think it's just such an incredible space to be exploring and really just reframing it. So we have Briony McKenzie here, and we're incredibly grateful for that. She needs no introduction, and I'm going to give you a little one because I'm sure some of you may not have met her before. But I want to set the scene and say that I truly believe that Briony is one of New Zealand's greatest mindset coaches. She's done some incredible work with us over the last couple of years, and some of our most transformational events have definitely been with Briony. You're going to get as much out of this as you put in. Just a little disclaimer. And here's the intro. Briony uses she, her pronouns and is a dynamic and impact-driven life and business coach whose enthusiasm and passion will challenge, activate, and inspire soulful action. After a number of years as a top-tier corporate lawyer, Briony made the leap to start her own coaching business, Untapped. And since then, it's just gone from strength to strength. It's been incredible to witness that, Briony. So that's really all from me. Welcome to the workshop on behalf of Seed, and over to you, Briony.
Awesome, thanks for that, Jim. Appreciate the kind words. Kia ora, everyone. Like Jim said, my name is Briony McKenzie, and my passion is definitely in the realm of transformation. So I am passionate and committed to what it looks like to have humans transform whatever's in the way of us living our best expression and highest potential. It's been a really long journey for myself in terms of getting to this point, and by no means by being a coach doesn't mean that you're perfect. It means that I'm still on the journey, and so I'm really passionate about humans discovering what is holding us back, and what we'll be looking at today is obviously this concept of inner leadership. I think, you know, in the world of leadership, it can often be thought that it's the title or the corner office or whatever it is that deems us to be a leader, but we are all, everyone on this call is leaders in their own lives and leaders in different ways. And so this concept is about going inwards and really looking about yourself, how you're leading your own life and how you're leading for those around you and closest to you, before we go out to that community wider impact. So it's my privilege and honor to be here with you today. I am passionate about transformation, not information. So I try not to overload these things with too many concepts and too much information. And I definitely don't want to be the person talking the whole time. So please unmute and share, and there'll be loads of opportunity for, you know, bringing your insights, bringing what's coming up for you in the moment, and that's where we get the most value from the session. So please be bold and do that, because I definitely know that that's where the transformation happens. So for this concept, you would have received a PDF downloadable. I know some of you would have done that and some of you wouldn't have had a chance yet, or maybe life came up and all of the things. So we're just going to assume and move through that together as well, and then go with whatever else comes up in the session. I'm usually relatively fluid in where people bring things up. We can go there and work there. That's how I prefer to coach. So be bold and be brave and bring what you're dealing with. So the concept of inner leadership. In my experience, I obviously from the philosophy is, how do we need to go inwards and look at ourselves before we can lead others? In terms of the work that I do, the concept is that you can't take people where you haven't been. So the most important work that we can do to truly contribute at a wider level is our own introspection and our own self-awareness and managing our own ego and triggers, because that means we can influence others, we can support others on that journey, we can truly lead with compassion and service, versus the ego, which can often be driving a lot of leadership positions at the moment. And so this is all about that journey, and that's what I'm committed to myself, and I am excited to dig in. So I'll just get a quick raise of hands so I know what we're working with. Who has had a chance to do the PDF? The moment, yeah, the people are like, yeah, I did it. Okay, cool. So I'm going to assume, so we have got a few people who haven't as well. So if you can get the PDF in front front of you. We'll be referring to that throughout the session as well. So we're going to start with a quick concept just to set some tone. So when I was thinking about inner leadership, obviously that can look so many ways, but that concept is, how do we lead at home? How do we lead the areas of our lives first before we go and influence others? And I think often in social impact space particularly, what we can see a lot of is pouring from an empty cup, is giving everything to everyone else, in service of everyone else. And often the sun's just come streaming in as I saying that. Often that may mean that it looks like an empty cup for us, or perhaps parts of our own lives are neglected. And so how do we lead with true integrity of being of service to the world, but also taking care of ourselves, filling up our own personal cup, filling up our whānau, our family, our friends, our relationships? How do we make sure that is all given the love and the respect that it deserves? And so flipping it on its head a little bit in terms of that. And so there'll be some reflection, and we'll work through what came up for you and what does come up for you when you reflect on those areas of life and how you're actually leading in them in life leadership. But when I was sitting and thinking about how do we look at kind of levels of leadership, or what do we even have a model that kind of looks how you go from your own self to being out in the world and being of influence and being of service? And I was drawn back to this concept called the 5 levels of leadership, which one of my mentors, Alexi Panos, who I trained over in Australia with, introduced me to. And the one that I sent you on the PDF, that was an adapted version. So I'm just going to slide share. So if you haven't got screens available, if you're on your laptop, you'll be able to see this. If you're on a phone, that may be a bit more challenging, but if you so I'm just going to need ability to screen share. So Louise, can you just go down to share screen at the bottom and give me some rights? Give me my screen share. Thank you. Awesome. And we'll have a look at that together and obviously answer any questions and things we may have about it. So
apologies.
You're right.
It's giving me the option to share my own screen, and I can show you no one wants to see that.
If you go, settings, screen share, and then go advanced settings, and then go allow host participants to share.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
Zoom is my life.
I've ticked it.
Cool.
Here's hoping.
Awesome. All right, let's try that. Cool. We good? Yeah, we're in. Okay, so if we look on here, so whipping up and putting together the 5 levels of leadership. So starting, can everyone see that? Give me a thumbs up if you guys can see that. All good. Yeah, awesome. So looking here at, so first we can have avoidance of leadership, which can look like not even putting yourself out there. So, and I'm conscious on this call, everyone may be at different areas and degrees in your leadership. And so this will speak to all different levels and everyone at different stages. And remember, we can be at different stages in different areas of our life, right? So the first level of leadership would look like avoidance. So that is typically avoiding responsibility to lead, staying silent, and people don't follow you in a sense because you don't necessarily actually choose to lead in that area. And I know for a lot of clients I work with, this comes up a lot at work, is a lot of people kind of suppressing their ideas or their self-expression at work. And so that would be in the level of avoidance. And that typically comes afraid of taking action because of fear. Then we move into the next level of leadership, which would look quite egoic. So that's run by the ego, which is interested in power, control, a sense of validation, getting attention for being in leadership positions, and using that kind of to validate yourself in terms of what you're doing. So a lot of the world is actually, to be honest, not all of the world, but a lot of the world is still set up in quite ego-centric leadership models. So it's all about getting that title and getting that thing. And it's kind of, even in terms of status symbols and consumerism, it's all about the ego. It's all about helping us feel validated in some sense, as though when we get that thing, that'll mean we're worthy. So a lot of the world still lives in egoic-centric leadership. Moving into effectiveness, so that's like you have an ability to produce results in this area, and you know what the mission is, and you're super focused and super diligent towards the task. And then moving into engaging and empowering, where you understand the ability to build relationships, empower others, have them, instead of having followers, you create leaders out of them, really strong communication and vision in what you're doing. And then we move right into service, where you can produce extraordinary results with least effort, and it's completely about service, commitment, and a way of being, and it's all through it's through your energy and your essence, and people just want to be part of whatever you're creating because you just ooze that level of service and that leadership. So that's the 5 levels of leadership, condensed and adapted a little bit from my mentors. And what I'm going to get to do is, if we think then, and there are loads of different areas of life in terms of, all sorts, but when I was choosing these specific areas, we're thinking about how do we lead in the areas close to us, right? So in the areas that are really starting with self, obviously, which is your own leadership, and then your career and business or business, your family and friends, your relationship, how do you lead within those areas? So we'll take, for those who haven't done the reflection, you can have an opportunity now to think in those areas of life, and you've got the PDF, what level of leadership are you at? Here are the questions. And when you think of, so it could be like, in the area of myself, I'm still at the level of ego because, I'm all about trying to reach some level of spirituality or manipulate my body into a certain way so I'm accepted. So that would all be at the level of ego when you're thinking about leading yourself. So just think about each area and what level of leadership you're at in these areas. And then on the reflection, what works about this level? So that means, but not no self beat up in reflection. It's all just bringing awareness to what is it in that area that's working really well and is really effective, and then what in that area is not working very well and is ineffective, and what would you need to expand to the next level of leadership in your life, right? So, and just a couple of examples so we're all on the same page. If you think perhaps in your career or business, you're at the level of being effective. So you've been promoted to manager or whatever, and you're highly effective at producing results, but you're kind of still micromanaging people underneath you, and you're not experiencing that they're stepping up. Our level of leadership, it's all about introspection. It's nothing to do with them. It's all about how can we shift ourselves to influence change in others. That would have you look and go, okay, I'm effective at work. Like I produce results with my manager, my boss. And what I now need to do is have an ability to step up and empower and inspire others to step into their leadership so that they can run with it. So that's like an example of how you would start to look at where am I actually at and how do I move through to that? What do I need to shift to move through to that next level? And why this is so powerful is because we often think that it's someone else or it's something else. It's something outside of us that has to shift. The world's got to see that we are skilled, or my boss has to understand this, or, my whānau need to know that and get that about me. But actually we want to flip it and go, look, let's put the responsibility back in yourself. What is it that you could transform and shift to reach into new levels of the true impact and change you want to create? And that will be different for everyone. And hopefully on this call, we'll get to understand some of what people on the call have committed to. Has anyone got any questions on that reflection piece? Because we'll give you a wee bit of time and we'll take some shares for people who have. So any questions from that? So looking at each of those areas and at what level are you? What's working? What's not working? And what would need to shift? All good. Feel free to just unmute and throw in questions about the model or the reflection or anything that's coming up.
And if there's anything that anyone wants to say anonymously, you're welcome to message me and I'll read it out for you.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
so if you're a bit camera shy, it's all good.
Great idea. And one thing I just want to throw in the space too, being someone who has to take many honest looks at my own life, is that often there's a part of us, which is our ego, which may not want to look at these things, and it may not want to own, perhaps I'm not so impactful in that area because of these things. And so just notice as you're reflecting, you may want to put yourself as a service-based leader in every area and be like, yeah, and maybe you are, and that's totally cool as well. But also reflect and see what parts of yourself perhaps want it to look a certain way, and perhaps the truth is that it doesn't. And this is true self-awareness. And this is what makes an amazing leader, is they're actually willing to look and go, perhaps it's not so pretty over here. And that's where the real magic and transformation can start to occur. So if you feel that sense of like, oh, I'd love to say that I was that level in every area, that's usually our ego trying to tell the world, looking good, make us look good. So just as everyone takes that opportunity, we can take some shares from people who have done the reflection in advance. You guys can kick us off with some insights that came up from it. Just unmute and jump in. What did you discover in the reflection?
One thing I found was a disparity between where I feel like I want to.
Oh, hold on, Luca. I think we lost you on mute there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Was a disparity between where I feel like I want to operate and where other people want me to operate. So I was looking at level 1, and I know that in areas of my life, that's absolutely how I want to be. I want to avoid having to take responsibility for things, but it doesn't always pan out that way. And like particularly in the area of family and friends, I feel like I often end up in this position where people expect me to take a leadership role, and I don't really want to do that.
Awesome. Okay, amazing insight. And do you know what? I totally resonate with that, because when the world relates to you as a leader, often Luca or anyone else who resonates with that, totally, they expect it. And sometimes it can get like a little bit exhausting, right? And you're like, I actually just want to curl up in a ball and not be this person. And that is that true leadership piece of service, right? Where you can show up in service of that, even when you're really not feeling it. And I can source so much of myself in that share. I'm like, oh my gosh, the amount of days I just want to hide under the covers and be like, can I not today? And that's that leadership piece, right? We show up for our commitment to the vision, to whatever it is. What would you say in those areas, Luca? You know, what is it that they are seeking, or what kind of leadership do you think they're looking for?
Usually it's around conflict resolution. So my family, bless them, they fight. And I'm often called on to resolve those kind of disputes. I'll get all the different parties coming to me complaining about the other. And I just see things very differently. Like with my mum and my sister, the way they speak about each other, I know they love each other deeply, but when they speak to each other, they come away with the conclusion that they hate each other. And I'm like, well, that conclusion that you've reached doesn't really fit with how you actually treat the other person, and you actually speak about that person behind their back. There's so much love and connection there, but the problem is they butt heads when they actually talk to each other a lot of the time. So I feel like I'm often just saying that's the conclusion you've reached, but it doesn't necessarily fit with the rest of the way you talk about that person. There's a lot of love, and
wow,
yeah, it's strange.
Yeah. Got it. Amazing. So they, utilize that strength that you have of compassion and love and generosity, and they bring that in. And then, so when you think about, and it's totally okay, when you think about supporting your family with those conflict resolutions, then what part of you doesn't want to do that, I guess, to some extent?
Part of me wants them to take responsibility for that.
Awesome.
Part of me thinks, like, I get that it's not always easy to see the forest for the trees, but I think beginning from that place of assuming the worst rather than kind of being a bit more objective and going, well, actually, we do love each other and spend a lot of time in service of each other, and we don't always communicate that well. But just, I guess, changing the baseline assumptions, and I struggle to communicate that maybe.
Amazing. So So cool. Amazing. And it's so good, right? Because I'm sure that many people, the amazing thing about these kind of calls is when someone shares, a lot of other people can source themselves in that sharing, right? It's the power of group work. And it's why I run a lot of group coaching programs, is because one person can speak and everyone else is like, they're just speaking for me, you know? And it's like, it's perfect. So thanks, Luca, for being, you know, coachable and offering it, because it's a real contribution to a group when you share, you know, everyone else gets something too. Amazing. So yeah, Amy said so, resonate with that too. Yeah. So you're at, I'd say, in terms of if we use the model, you know, and not everything's about the model, but if we look at the model, there's this element, right, where you're at this level of the ability to empower your family with the tools and the objectivity and the compassion and the love that you experience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you've done the work. I can hear that. You've got to a place where you can truly see life and the love and all of it, right? And you can transcend it and go beyond the story and the drama, and it's beautiful. And then what's so frustrating is when others can't see that. You know, it's like, oh, how can they not just get this, right? And so in terms of your call forward, Luca, it's your ability to empower others now to have an access to that. And I'm not sure how you trained or how you discovered this neutrality, this objectivity, but you have an access to something that more people in the world need. And yeah, it's based, you know, and you don't have to do anything. I just want to preface everyone, you never have to do anything. It's always a choice. If you choose to empower and lead others in these situations, you can absolutely choose that. That's not your responsibility too, right? So say you choose to take on this relationship within your family, your mum and your sister, and empower them with the tools that they need to now resolve this, and effectively coach them through it. Yeah, it's that next level. Give them whatever gold, Luca, they're coming to you for that gold, right? Yeah. And yeah, and it's the greatest gift to empower others, because then they'll have that for the rest of their life, whatever that point of view is. Yeah. And then you'll be out of a job.
Yeah, hopefully.
if they're ready for it. That's another thing. You know, another thing with leadership team is that we can show up and we can contribute and we can give everything we've got, and the people who are ready will be ready, and those who won't. But it's that continual commitment of who you are for the world. And I can hear that, Luca. And I know the days you probably just want to hide away. And part of that service level is like, I know I've got the tools to, empower them. That's awesome.
So I've got a question about that. So how do you balance out that service and filling that role for others? And then on some of those days where you really just want to hide under the cover, showing up as a leader for yourself and acknowledging that today I need to take that time. Because I know that's something that I struggle with, is where do you draw that line of today it's actually okay to say, no, I'm gonna stay under the covers, and actually, no, I've got this, this gold that I want to share with people.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Beautiful. And that's totally, it's totally a personal discovery and boundary, right? So, on the reflection, the self is the first level, and the self is the first area, and that's for a reason, because that's the number one area. We want to get to that point where we are fully in service of ourself first, like 110% unwavering, non-negotiable, and then we can give from that overflow. So Ali, I would say in the area of self, where do you feel like you're at in terms of your leadership of self?
For myself, it was an interesting one, because in sometimes I feel like I'm like almost engaged in power, and then other days it doesn't feel like it's quite there yet. Like I've basically overhauled my life in the past 6 months, so it's been like that for me was a huge acknowledgement of myself and putting my health first.
Awesome.
But then in other ways there are definitely days where it's like, why did I do that? So yeah.
Awesome. So you've had a taste and experience of what it looks like to do that, right? And it's totally, and it's just practicing that. And every time you're in a new context of your life, there'll be a new kind of boundary that gets pushed, like you start a business, and then it's this whole I give everything to my business or the world, and I give my family or myself the last of it, the dregs, but it's flipping that and going, right, my priority every day is me. What do I need? And a lot of people have issues with that being selfish, right? A lot of people think, oh, that's selfish, that all this self-care and stuff. It's actually getting to a place of being able to say to yourself, I literally can lead myself first, 100%, and then I can give whatever's left. So if you feel that tank getting empty, Ali, you have permission. Totally. Yeah. You just say, and you can just say something like family related or friend, you know what, I with love, I do not have capacity for this in this very moment. And it's like the most selfless thing you can do, because it's like, I do this often with my family. We have lots of family patterns lots of drama, lots of things. And so there are days that I just say, I love you wholeheartedly. And today I cannot give my whole self to this. Yeah. And it's totally cool. And they're like, okay. And then they're like, okay, well, when can I talk to you? And I'm like, I'll call you. And it will be within the next 48 hours. I just need some space right now, And people are fine. When people get upset is when they don't have a clarity on the boundary, or they feel unloved that you just said no. So you just give them the next, I need this, and I'll be back. And then I'll be fully present. Yeah. Always you first. Yeah. And that relationship with self, that's why it's such a powerful relationship, because it's the longest one we'll ever have. Right? It really is. It's just it's just that little voice in our head and us and our spirit or our soul all day long, just hanging out. So how do we make that just the most powerful, loving, connected, like, I got you, almost like patting yourself on the shoulder. I got you today. Don't worry. We'll take a break. We'll take ourselves out of the house if we need to. Yeah. It's awesome. That's a cool question. I just want to share as well. So someone had submitted around the levels on the diagram. Is it okay not to be at the service level and potentially not strive in some of those areas of life? Yeah, amazing. Good question. Absolutely. There is literally no textbook way to do leadership. You just do leadership in the way that works for you. So if you look at an area of life and you're like, I'm actually totally cool about avoiding in that area, that's good. I'm good with that. That's fine. 100%. If you are at like engage and empower and you don't want to be at service in that area, that's totally cool as well. This whole concept is about awareness, because when we have awareness, we have choice, and when we have a new choice, we can create new results. So it's all about awareness. It's an ability for you to sit and consciously choose. Like I absolutely, and for speaking into who asked that question, and for anyone else who may have that question, I have areas in my life 100% that I'm like, I'm actually cool, but I'm not showing up fully in that area, but I know it and I choose it, and I'm okay with that, and I don't beat myself up at all. I'm very aware of the areas I'm investing in and the areas I'm potentially not, and that's okay, because we are not superhuman. The 5 levels of leadership just give you a framework, and it's not the be all and end all, it's just one framework to kind of see and be able to map out, oh, where am I? Oh, and if I wanted to get to that level, that would be my one next step. Yeah. Awesome question though. Yeah, I think often, particularly with personal growth or, self-development world, it can make us feel like we're not good enough. Like it's like, oh, I'm not good enough if I don't do that thing. It's like, no, you're amazing and you're awesome. And here's some tools and things if you want to stretch and grow in that area. So yeah, never ever buy into it's like the, 5-hour morning rituals. I remember when I first started doing good habits, I had about 1 million stacks of habits on I had a spreadsheet, and it was like 50 habits a day. It was like really setting myself up for disappointment, to be transparent. And then I just finally have got, I'm okay. I know what I need every day. I have some non-negotiables, and beyond that, it's a good day, just as long as I get what I need. So yeah, I think it's almost a 360 journey with the old personal growth. How about other shares from what came up around the reflection, or if you're still doing it, insights that came up for you? Just unmute and share. Don't go once.
I think for me it was just the awareness as well. Like I've just written that in the chat thing, of sometimes just stopping and taking the time to think about these sorts of things and where you're at, and just kind of I suppose it's like a not necessarily a line in the sand, but yeah, just to kind of keep track of where you are, especially if you have been, like I've been doing a lot of internal work and work on myself and my life and all that kind of thing. So especially if you have been doing something, just to kind of, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's funny. Someone I was talking to today, she said, like, I don't know, like I go to the gym and I love CrossFit and everything, and that area of my life works so well, and then my actual life, like my projects and everything else, like doesn't work so well. Like, why not? And I was like, well, because in some areas that work really well, we have structure and we have routine, and we probably invest like into a gym membership and stuff. And then in the area of life per se, like this huge big thing that we're all tackling, or in the experience of, we don't necessarily have a structure or accountability or the tools or even the time in some sense to sit down and do that reflection. So an exercise like this is a beautiful take stock, and a life audit is very similar, and I do that every few months. I'm like, where am I actually at? Because you're right, Amy, things shift and things move, and then suddenly things are out of whack again, and it's actually like, how do we bring ourselves back into is this truly where I want to be, and am I happy, or what areas? I know and I'm not sure everyone's been through the lockdown experience obviously, but I knew for myself, like, there was a lot of areas that came up in that experience of actually these are kind of out of alignment with what I'm actually committed to, and so it's so powerful to all just look inwards and really take stock of where you are at in those areas, and getting real with it as well as another, that's ourselves, getting really honest about it. It's kind of hard sometimes, but it's cool. What about other shares? What insights came up when you reflected on self, career, business, family, friends, relationships, community impact? Did anyone have an area that they were, I love that Luca confronted that he's been avoiding that area. Did anyone have another area that they felt like they're in avoidance of, or even in the ego space?
Can I ask a cheeky question?
Go for it.
How do you do you have a framework or a way of prioritizing if you feel like you've got so many areas you want to work on at once, and how you kind of figure out which growth area to prioritize, because you only have so many hours in the day,
Nice, good question. I definitely used to be of the trying to do everything at once and thinking that would work. And it tends to be that you don't get many results when you try to do everything at once, and it's sort of, you move very slowly. But the One Big Thing is an amazing book by Greg McKeown that I read a few years ago, and that completely transformed how I operate. And it's just like, actually just focus on something for 3 to 6 months, an area of life that you really want to expand in. Do one thing a day towards that one thing. And just focus in on that. And I think it's the same for habits, it's the same for anything. It's just doubling down on that one thing. In terms of prioritizing, what I would say is we often avoid the things that we most need to do. So for me, for 4 years, I actually avoided dealing with my career. I knew it was an area of life I was really, really unhappy in. I trained for 5 years to get to that point. It was all meant to be successful and everything. And I would be there at 7 a.m. and leave at 11 p.m. and just be burnt out and really empty. And the reason I avoided it is because I didn't even know where to start, right? And so often, particularly with service-based stuff, is we can put everything into giving. And this was totally me. So I was philanthropy, charities, I ran a social enterprise, I did all this stuff outside of work to try and make me happy. And the one thing I avoided was just dealing with the big elephant in the room, which was my career and discovering who I really was and what I wanted to do with my life. And I think that's very common for lots of us, is like we're in service of everything and distracted and busy and giving so much, instead of actually just going, hey, actually, what's really not working about my life? What am I trying to run from even? And for me, that was career. For a lot of people, that can be health, that can be things at home, relationships. And so it's that we could keep ourselves so busy in all of those projects and things, but where we really want to flip back to is our own life and those fundamental pillars. And I think, Louise, like in terms of your question, they're the hardest ones to confront, because there isn't a manual or a textbook, and there's usually no one holding you accountable in those areas. You can just kind of go through the motions and go through the motions and go through, and then 7 years you're kind of in the same spot. So I think those are sometimes the most challenging areas, but also the most rewarding. So I think for me, my answer to that question is kind of how perhaps it's not about the thing out there somewhere. Perhaps it's about the thing that potentially you've been avoiding dealing with, right? And being vulnerable enough to say, I need to confront this area. And maybe it's not that. If everything's humming at home and everything's working, it might just be like, cool, what project's going to have the biggest impact and the quickest, who can I ask to help me do that? And I know I have times in my life that's definitely the case. And but self-leadership is really that flipping of thinking of those areas, our relationships, our careers, our finances, our health, those fundamental areas, and how are we going in those? Can we truly, hand on our heart, say, I'm okay with that area? And for me personally, I'm constantly creating for the world and for my business and for my clients. And the one person I have to check in with the most is my partner, because I go a lot and the last to him, and in the last few months we've had lots of those conversations and that's been his experience, 100%. He's like, I know your mission to the world's first. And I was like, ouch, I don't want that to be the case. And we've had some really tough conversations, hired a coach in that area to have those conversations every week, to be accountable, to look at that area, even though outwardly to the world we would have like the most like we both do the same work and we have the same mission, and we have a freedom lifestyle and all these amazing things that the world would be like, that's incredible. But if the person who's the most important to you doesn't feel loved and prioritized, like, who are you to be out in the world serving everyone else when you can't deal with that? So it's the willingness to confront what's right in front of us, and there is no manual for that. It's the hardest part. It's kind of like, I'd rather not do that. I know how to build a program, but I'm not sure how to make my most important person feel honored and loved. So it's awesome. Cool. Okay, does that answer your question? Any insights from that, or more further questions on that?
I think just for me, it's like when you're challenging something that has otherwise a lot of structure or a lot of security for you, whether that's like relationships or a job or whatever, like that can be a barrier of wanting to grow in that area if it threatens that security in some way. But in some ways it's also like a really important reason to challenge it or to grow in that area. But it's hard.
Oh, absolutely. And our ego, which our ego is our false sense of our personality self, right? And our ego is only interested in looking good. That's what it's here to do. Make you look good, think you got, the world, I got it sorted. And so it's really, really tough for us to actually go and be honest about that, and get really real about that and ask other people for feedback about that. It's super easy to think we're doing a great job. What's their experience been, So it's, there's a huge element of vulnerability to that, Louise, absolutely. So I'll just got a couple of comments. Tracy, my job, I'm in the egoic stage. Amazing. Thank you, Tracy. That's freaking awesome to share. I always felt I was being held back and there's no room to grow within the company, and I was underappreciated, and it meant I can't do the hard stuff. But on reflection, I think a lot of this is my own attitude. Wow. Tracy, are you in a space to unmute and share, or are you typing because you can't? Maybe. I'll assume you are. I'll speak to that as well. That's awesome. Oh, you're with us?
Yeah, I can share. Sorry.
Cool. No, that's awesome. Thank you. That's so beautiful, and acknowledge you for being so honest. Yeah.
I don't really know what else to say. It's I know I'm underappreciated in my job, but I can also resonate with what you said. Like, I do a lot more than just my work, and I think there's something missing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so do you feel like, do you enjoy your job? Hopefully your boss isn't on the call. If they are, it's totally cool if we don't
No,
go there.
he's not.
Okay, cool.
I enjoy my job. I enjoy the work I do.
Mhm.
To a degree. So I work in sales,
Mhm.
particularly cold calling, which can get very hard sometimes.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. And so when you say you feel like you're at the egoic state, what does that mean for you? Does that mean you're trying to chase something at work, or yeah?
So we have very limited positions for me to progress to.
Got it.
Yeah, and for me, I guess I'm stagnant because I've been waiting for the last 2 years. The upper management keeps promising me, oh yep, a new position will open soon, it'll open soon. So I'm at that point where it's like, well, I've proven to you time and time again that I can do the job, but you're not giving me the opportunity to move up into the next stage.
Cool. Okay. And if we go to thinking of the leadership of self, right? Because that's the most important thing first. Tracy, what do you feel like you personally need in order to move forward? Like what?
I feel so my boss, he is quite good. He does give me the opportunity to do the bigger chunks, like the bigger sales and stuff. And I think I just sit back and say, oh well, I'm not being appreciated for doing that. You know, I'm not in the bigger shoes. So for me, I think I just need to step up and do the bigger chunks, regardless of salary or, you know, appreciation.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That brings me so much joy. Oh, that's so good. Because can you see that would go from an egoic leadership state to service? You would skip a whole bunch of steps in that as well, because that would go from, okay, you know what? I don't need the pay, and I don't need the validation, and I don't even need the recognition to be of service to what we're up to in the mission. I'll just do it anyway because it's who I am. It's who I be. It's funny, isn't it, how we give the world, like we're like, I'll only give you a little bit, and then when you give me that, then I'll give a bit more. But ultimate service is here, like, you know, once we're taking care of ourselves, number one rule, yeah, I'll do it anyway. It's just who I be. It's just what I do. I would never be in a space and a work where I just don't do it. And Tracy, I've got a question for you. What's the impact? Because you know what the bigger things are, right? So you're aware of that. So you've got awareness of what you would need to do. What's the impact of you of seeing those things and knowing that you could do them, but kind of not doing them because you're waiting for that validation or that pay rise or whatever it is? How does that impact you day to day? How does it make you feel?
Oh, it makes me very sloppy in my work. It makes me very unfocused as well, because I don't want to sink my teeth into these jobs that are going to take me a lot longer when I can do something else for a short like, what's the expression? Short gratification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so you're kind of half there, half not, unfocused, a bit sloppy, kind of avoiding somewhat, like, oh, I don't really want to get amongst that because that'll take a lot and I'm not even being recognized for that yet.
Yeah.
Amazing. And what if you stepped into making that commitment to going all in on that thing, whatever it is, without the need for the validation yet? And by the way, the thing will come. Everyone, the often when we give unconditionally, the validation, the money, that whatever the ego is looking for, it comes. It's a byproduct of complete service and commitment. So question, if you were to do that, Tracy, regardless of if the validation comes or not, how would that feel?
I would feel proud of myself. Yeah, a lot of that self-love, you know, self-validation for doing it, you know, like, people think I can't do it. I don't have the title. I don't have the big shoes. I'm not in the big job.
Amazing. And you do it anyway. All right. That's it. right? That's right there. You're willing to give something before you get something. The ego doesn't want to give anything, guys. The egoic state is not about interested in giving something for no return. True service is like, I'll give it, and obviously I'm not attached to what the results will be, but I'll give it because I do it for me and it's who I be, Tracy. And so part of you, I can imagine, and sitting in this job and kind of doing it only to a certain extent when we know, I can hear your leadership and that you know what you need to do or would need to do, and you just do it anyway without that title.
I just need to jump.
Absolutely. Title or no title, because that real like service-based, it's not about the title, it's just who you be. You're just like, I would never just half do a job. I see what needs to be done and I just do it because that's my service and that's my commitment. And then the world sees that and they're like, oh my gosh, that's it. That's the true essence of it, right? And all that validation stuff, Tracy, it will come. It like truly will. They'll probably just be like, oh, you're doing the job anyway, we better give you the title.
Yeah, I think self-validation is more important than external validation, especially in my company for me.
Yeah, awesome. And so that piece of showing up every day and playing 100% and doing the things that scare you and taking on those chunky big things will just have you feel so much more empowered and confident in what you're creating, right?
Yeah,
amazing. All right, go Tracy. I love that share. That's it. So
Thank
cool.
you.
Yes, freaking awesome. Amazing. Any other insights opening up for people in what's been shared? It doesn't have to be about the 5 levels of leadership. I don't really like getting stuck on things too much. So is any other insights for people, maybe what someone else has shared or what I have shared? Just unmute. Or questions?
Hi. I can totally relate to what was just said, but also I think with your background, because I was in a CA firm for accounting, and every year you move up a level, or based on your rating between you and your peers, you move up or get pay rises, and I've changed into being an accountant in a company, but my brain is still there, and everyone's still got titles, and like you've got to get to that next title, but there's no like time frames, but you think you're doing what's upper level, but then you're not being rewarded. It's hard on the brain.
Got it. So, and it's a similar thing, right, Claire? It's the ego. The ego wants the title.
Yeah.
The ego's
totally.
like, pay me my worth, and demands like, tell me I'm good enough and pat my back, and that's all the ego stamping its little feet.
Yeah.
And I totally hear you, because we were fully underpaid in our roles and our hours and everything, and it was blah blah, we could go on forever, and I did go on forever. For 2 years in my law job, I stomped my feet and I was like a little demanding ego, like, pay me more, I work this and that. And then when I started to do all the personal growth, Claire, I started to see that no one, like in terms of people in decision making powers as such, want to endorse people who be like that, right? And so who do you need to be to transcend all of that? And it's like that full commitment and mission, that like, I don't really care if I get paid or not paid or whatever. This is who I am, and this is how I perform, and this is what I'm committed to, and this is what you can count on me for. Yeah.
Totally.
And it's giving up. It's giving up. The other thing that I personally discovered is often when, like, that's that thing that we need to transcend, is the world to date. We're discovering new forms of leadership through Brené Brown and people like that are showing us more feminine essence of leadership with vulnerability in other parts. But to date, we still have a very egocentric, hierarchical forms of leadership. And so what we want to be in the discovery of, if you're on a call like this, you're definitely on the journey already, but in the discovery of what does an alternative way look like? How do we discover our unique superpowers and our commitments and our habits and our mindsets and lead with integrity in a way that the world probably hasn't even seen yet, Claire? So for myself, 2 years into law, I was being a stomping my feet little junior lawyer, demanding more for doing no more. We'll do no more, but I want more. And it was all from the ego, right? And then saw actually, what could I bring? What is missing in this space? What is my commitment? What are my values? What are my gifts? And what could I bring to this space that would be exponential and blow all KPIs and everything out of the water, right? And that's that piece about understanding self for everyone. It's that investment into your own personal growth. And for me, Claire, it was bringing a social impact lens to our law firm, for seeing an opportunity to mentor junior lawyers and bringing that, running lunchtime workshops and doing all these things that were definitely not on the this is the path to follow piece. Right. And so it's thinking outside the box as well. When you are in one of those structures, I get it. They are structured and the world is still structured, but who do we need to become? How do we need to bring our unique gifts to transcend those structures and disrupt them in new ways and innovative ways? And if we stay inside the system and the ways of thinking, we'll never disrupt it, right? If we just stomp our feet and demand more in the same system, we have to be willing to go outside and come back in a different way. So it's just something to think outside the box and really to understand yourself and your value and what you bring, and be willing to bring it before you get something for it. The world will reward you, all of you. Whatever you give, and you give unconditionally, it will come back to you tenfold. Absolutely. You know, just keep giving, and catch that ego when it's like, I'm not getting anything for that. No one's telling me I'm good enough. We want to get to a place where we don't do it for that. We do it from a complete place of non-attachment and love, and just because it's who we are. So Claire, is there anything specific you feel like inside of that system that you could bring that would be innovative or out of the box from what they currently have, given your superpowers and your values and everything?
Yeah. I'd have it like they are really, really positive about bringing lots of new initiatives and ideas, and again, the egotistical side of myself, you know, they reward people that bring their ideas. They've got a Great Ideas Monthly Award, you know, like things like that. It is really, it's set up actually to encourage the good ideas, which is awesome. But like if you're doing it for the reward, it's not the right thing. Nice. Yeah, I have to really think on that one actually.
Cool, awesome. Have a think, and yeah, perhaps don't think still inside of their structures, right? Think totally from a place of service and into empower others, and that's where things really fly. Because, you know, bringing an idea for the sake of getting an accolade or best idea of the month or whatever, that's still about us, you know. But starting at something for the junior CAs, or like, you know, just starting something and not even needing any recognition for it, now that's what gets noticed. Because people are like, oh, what was that, you know?
Yeah, definitely got to pick an area you're passionate about, not just any idea. Yeah, a lot. And that's that piece back to self-awareness and personal development, is the more we understand ourselves and invest in ourselves, the more we can actually give, because we actually have such an awareness, and we stop chasing all the things outside of us and what people told us we should be or shouldn't do, and we just get really clear on who I am and what I bring, you know. And that's so powerful in terms of inner leadership, is developing that awareness and owning that worth as well. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Amy, you mentioned the last bit on your partner, what opened up for you in that. Where's Amy? I'm just trying to find her. Oh, she's away. Cool. Okay. Any other shares from what's opening up, or from the reflection, or just from the conversation, what you're discovering? Is anyone more aware of their ego than they were before? Kind of. Yeah. It's everywhere, isn't it? Yeah. Amazing. I'm going to run through really quick, because I'm conscious of time, but this concept is Matt Kahn, who wrote a book called Whatever Arises, Love That, and he calls them the ego personality inflammations, and they are just magical, because what we can hear is the world tells us to follow this egocentric stuff, and the systems are set up that way, and we want to get to a place of complete service and just non-attachment and just
giving for the sake of giving and our commitment and who we be, right? But we have to be able to bring awareness to where we are stuck in that and where we need to go to move beyond that. So Matt Kahn creates these beautiful personality informations, and there's 5 of them. So I'm going to share them on the screen, and I want you to have a look at them. I'll read through them and just see what one comes up for you the most, because think of it like a little like peacock. It's like your little ego feathers that just fluff up, and it's like, you know, it's that personality information, it's the ego. So everyone's got a different version of it. So I'll just put them on the screen for us, and excuse the writing because there's a lot, but I'll just walk through them. So there is, so we're trying to giving everyone awareness of your ego now, because as you can hear from the call, everyone's kind of been able to spot their own versions of their ego in different places. So let's catch it, because it's the thing that really holds us back. So there is righteousness. So the ego feeds on being right and making others wrong, which is what I did when I was a junior lawyer, I think, embarrassingly, but I can own that, because, you know, that was just part of the journey. So it may show up when you feel like you're obviously right, or you need to make a point in an attempt to make someone else wrong, and you need to have the final say and have the upper hand, and you keep talking to ensure everyone knows that you are right and they are wrong. So that's righteousness. So that's the ego information. Victimization. So ego believes it's a victim of its circumstances. Even when life seems to be going right, something happens and turns it upside down. It holds on very tightly to judgments, opinions, beliefs, and regularly the life is in the chaos, because the ego loves that victimization of everything being upside down and everything being wrong, and it often seeks pain, the source of pain. And the most common statement would be life isn't fair. The third one is entitlement. So the ego believes that it's their right to have whatever they want, exactly what it wants, at the expense and the detriment of others, without doing the work or the action required to receive it. So we have heard that one on the call. It's like, I'm just going to do this, and I demand, and I expect more before I give more. So that's ego looking for a way to control. And the question, what an entitled ego information would say, is, what about me? Neediness. So no matter how much attention received from others, it's never enough. It's always a lingering sense of being invisible and unrecognized and undervalued or underheard. And no matter how much time and attention and focus it gets from others, it's hungry for more, which can be really draining for people around you. And it's afraid of being abandoned, left out, or losing everything. And its statement is, it's just never enough. And then the last ego information is looking good. So the ego is obsessed with the perceptions that others have of us, and it will consume immense amounts of energy and time in order to look good in the eyes of others and maintain a good image to the world. It shows up as a constant need for approval and external validation, constantly underneath us saying, am I good enough? Do they like me? What will they think if I whatever? And that's all about continually trying to look good. So those are all personality informations that work for the ego. So if you can take a moment to think about what one resonates with you most, if your ego doesn't want to own it, what would someone else say about you? Perhaps, what do you think someone close to you would say? The state and emotion shows up for me when. So perhaps you resonate with like righteousness, and that might be like at work when someone's doing something you don't think it's right, and you like argue your point, and it shows. Think about what are the biggest triggers for that ego inflammation. I am ready to be done with this area of my ego self because. So it will be causing you a lot of pain, or other people in your life a lot of pain. And then once I surpass and release this part of my ego self, I will actually have room to experience what? Be freedom, love, generosity. What would you experience if you could give up this personality information? All right, I'll put them in the chat as well. So a couple of shares. What opened up for people on that one? Anyone brave enough to share what their ego's up to? Noah? Someone who hasn't shared yet? Dun, dun, dun. The ego, by the way, doesn't want you to share. Does everyone know that? Yeah, the ego's like, oh my gosh, don't admit that on a group coaching call. That'd be so embarrassing. Everyone else will judge you. You're an asshole, or whatever it says. Sorry. If you want to have your first opportunity to transcend the ego, unmute and share what one do you resonate with. I'll tell you guys mine first. So where's my slide deck? I'm super righteous. Oh yeah, and looking good. So I'm like, I know best and you don't understand, and also looking good. So it's like, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be right before anyone knows. Can anyone else catch what ones are coming up for them? What's your faves?
Mine's looking good.
Amazing.
And just like when you see something, just automatically kind of looking for not the things that are wrong, but well, it is probably the things that are wrong. You know, like, does it all look nice? Is it all properly? And it's spell checked and it's la la la, all those kind of things. I'm like, oh look, that person's not done this right, or this is wrong, and yeah.
Nice, good stuff. And where does that show up for you most? Work?
Yeah, work.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. And what would be possible if you could transcend that one? If you could just be like, here I am, messy and all over the show, and deal with it.
Probably get more shit done, because the care factor wouldn't be, you know, you'd kind of going at 80% instead of striving for 110%. So you'd just be like, oh yeah, that's good enough. Here you go.
Yeah, amazing.
Rather than, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So you'd be freed up because the ego is attached that somehow this piece of work you produce means something about your worth, right? That's what the ego makes you think. But it's like, actually, you know, when and I also think of like the older generation, when people come to visit, it's like, oh my gosh, close the doors, put the dishes away, don't let anyone see our house like this, as though it means something about our worth, right? It's like, yeah, amazing. And looking good, so common, right? And the world kind of has built around, you know, have the right active wear, say the right thing, drive the right car. Yeah, the whole world's been built around that one. Yeah, amazing, cool. And that one other share, what's opened up? Perhaps someone who hasn't shared yet. What one did you, Adriana? Do you want to share what one resonated most?
Hi. Probably righteousness for me. But mainly in like close relationships, like people that I'm, I guess, comfortable like sharing with.
Yeah.
I will find myself like overriding the conversation because I think I'm right.
Nice. Yes, nice. I love that. And what's the impact of that? Obviously, you mentioned you override the conversation. They probably stop talking.
Yeah, like it. You don't get to, I guess, hear the whole story and their view, and which is obviously important. But
yeah,
something I'm aware of. But it's funny, like you can't actually control it all the time.
Awesome, so good. And the ego is very, very, very strong, right? And so the more you transcend it and work with it, the kind of less it'll have a grip on you. So that's awesome to catch, is that it is really strong, those urges. And you may find yourself sometimes in a conversation and then say, hey look, I'm just so aware that I'm so attached to this thing being right, and I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna give it up because it's ruining the conversation and everyone stopped talking now. And it's just like, when you catch it, just bring awareness to it, right? It's awesome. Because we're not perfect people. It's just about, now we can see those ones. Can we catch them in the moment and then perhaps say, wow, I'm really like attached to proving you wrong right now. You know, often I find with that one hard to back out of an argument. Sometimes I know I'm like in a corner and I know I'm so wrong right now, and I'm like, I'd do anything. I'll just keep going to go down another rabbit hole. So yeah, it's awesome to catch, to bring those relationships. Amazing. All right, team, that's really cool. So we will just close out. If you just drop in the chat, what was one of your biggest insights from the call, and what's one thing that you will do differently after this call? So just drop one biggest insight and one action. All right, I'll give you guys a moment. That's something I'm committed to, is that we could leave and then not do anything different, but that would just be pointless. We would have just been inspired today. So transformation happens when we leave this call and we actually catch something here and we do something different. And probably the people it will impact the most is the people in your life. It will mean a lot to you too, but it will probably be your relationships that people are like, oh, amazing. Amy, yes, have more of a service heart to your husband. Amazing. Perhaps ask him, how's it going? How are we doing? Are we warrant a fitness for the relationship? Awesome. Clear, very righteous and looking good egos, and want to work on them going forwards. I love it. So good when we can catch these things now. Cool. So is there any questions before we jump off? Anyone who's still writing can just write in the chat and we'll just read some of them out. Any other final questions? Cool. Awesome. Thanks. Also, I want to acknowledge everyone who shared as well. Really grateful for unmuting and sharing. I know, like we said, the ego doesn't want us to, and I know it takes courage, and it really contributes to the session and other people. So thank you for those who were willing to unmute and share, and everyone, obviously, for being on. Understanding the ego on different levels and being aware of it once it pops up. Brianna, biggest insight, become aware of how I like to be right and not make mistakes. Yes. Practicing allowing myself to make mistakes and be wrong sometimes. Yes, Christine. And even when you're wrong, admit that you're wrong. Say, I am wrong, and I'm so embarrassed to admit this right now. That's true leadership. You know, that's like the ultimate, when you can sit in that and just be like, oh, they see me. They see everything. My ego's telling me I shouldn't have told you guys about my relationship. It's like, why did you say that? You shouldn't tell people that. They're probably, you know, and I'm like, shh, it's all good. We're good. I'm going to start tackling some tough work projects on Tuesday. Awareness of ego and being more intentional in the way we're communicating. Looking good, ego. Yeah. And also okay to admit mistakes and accept where I am in my journey. And I don't have to be a service leader all the time. Yeah, not at all. Sometimes we just need to be a self-service leader. It's the most important thing we can lead. Numero uno. Beautiful. Okay, team. I will hand back over Jim or Louise, wherever she went. Yeah, if anyone, we'll send through the slides. If anyone wants to catch up more untapped stuff, I'm sure you guys will share the links and Instagram and all the fun stuff. And I hope to connect with more of you soon. It was awesome to be here tonight. And yeah, thanks again for contributing and for being open enough to catch the ego, because it doesn't want to be caught. It'll all be running away after the phone call. Why did we say that? Why do we do that? Okay, Jim, I'll hand back over to you.
Thank you so much. Is my audio okay? I've like switched audio devices. You can hear me all good? Yeah, sweet. Thank you so much. I'm just sitting here thinking like, Briony is my church, you know, like Sunday service. What a vibe. Thank you so much for coming online and being so generous with your time and sharing so many powerful tools. And I think the thing for me with these sessions with you, it's just so transformational how we can all learn from the shares that other people put forward. So I just really want to acknowledge everyone for their contribution tonight as well. There's lots of golden nuggets for me, and I just wanted to touch on a couple before we close. Right at the start, I just really heard that we need to reclaim our personal power for greater impact and change. And that's something that's really stood out for me in terms of like, you know, we can really own and decide how we're going to show up in the world. And I feel so much more empowered because of that. I think that the fact that you brought our awareness to the importance of awareness was really cool, because like you said, when we have awareness, then we've got choice and we can create better results. And that's just so freaking cool. And another one that really stood out for me was just like our ability to keep ourselves busy with external things, when really what we need to do is go internal and understand, you know, what are some of the patterns or beliefs or challenges that I actually need to tackle head on, and not busy myself up with projects and external things, which often is perceived as leadership. So lots of real shifts tonight, and I just really want to say thank you for your time, Briony. I cannot recommend Briony enough as well. If you're wanting to go a little bit deeper in terms of some of this coaching stuff, I've had the absolute pleasure of working with Briony in a coaching capacity, and just can't recommend her enough in terms of the accountability and the abundance of tools she has in her kete to share. So we'll be sharing some of Briony's links so that you can connect with her afterwards if that's something you want to explore. And I think I will leave it there. So thank you so much, everyone, for being part of this. We will be releasing a few other workshops with Seed over the next couple of months. This Wednesday, we have a workshop on financial wellbeing with ASB, which is the first part in a 3-part series on financial wellbeing. It's a free workshop, so if you'd like to join us there, then please do sign up. Otherwise, keep an eye out on our socials, and we'll have some more content coming up that really supports and strengthens your wellbeing. So thank you so much for tonight. Thank you, Briony. Have a great week ahead, and we will see you soon.
Awesome. See you guys.
Okay,
Bye.